that we are recording. Good morning and welcome, Brandy. I'm going to put in the chat two things for you. The first thing is the slide deck for today's presentation. I'm also going to put in the Advanced Opportunity Annual Reporting template as well, which is in a PDF. So with that, I'll share my screen here and we'll get started. All right. Good morning. My name is Crystal Smith. I serve as the Opportunities and Innovative Learning Senior Manager at the OPI. I'm so grateful for you taking the time to join us this morning as we talk about the annual reporting requirements for the Montana Advanced Opportunities Grant. So districts that are funded for fiscal year 26 will complete this annual report, submitted before or between December 1st and January 12th. That will be presented to the Board of Public Ed, and then that will serve as the requirements in order to be requalified for fiscal year 27 funding. So once districts are funded, they submit an annual report, and that's how they receive funding for the following year. And I will take you through that process this morning. So welcome. First thing I want to do is just provide some grant definitions for you from some of our friends who have been a part of this grant program for a while. There have been a few legislative changes from the 25 legislative session, which specifically talks about this advanced opportunity facilitator. So I just want to make sure it's a good refresher of what these dollars are supposed to be used for. What is it really intended for an advanced opportunity, and then some new information as well. So you'll see here the three definitions that you'll hear over and over in this presentation today. The first one being advanced opportunity, really talking about any type of course, exam, experiential, online, or learning opportunity that is attached or defined in your district's advanced opportunity plan. Remember, those districts that are either applying or have already applied had to provide an advanced opportunity strategic plan from their district that was board approved that really guides the funding and especially the spending of these dollars for your students. And ensuring that advanced opportunity aligns to students' desires for their post-secondary career and educational success. And we'll talk a lot about student-driven visions versus like teacher or admin or leadership visions, and how these funds are really intended to support student desires. A second thing is that advanced opportunity plan that has to be board approved. So if we have, I think Joliet and Felicia, you're looking, or not Joliet, I forget where you're from, but districts who might be new to applying for this, you want to ensure that advanced opportunity plan is board approved, and that is submitted with your initial application. It doesn't have to be submitted with your annual report though, but we'll talk about the measurable objectives, and those should come directly from this advanced opportunity plan that was initially submitted. And then finally, the advanced opportunity facilitators. So this is up to 25% of your funds, your yearly funds, can be used to support the hiring or the salary of someone who's considered an advanced opportunity facilitator. And this means someone who's employed by your school district who's really doing the coordination work between your community, industry, employers, and other organizations and your school district. So in the last couple of years, we've heard from district leaders that say, we would love to have more pathways for our students, but we don't have anyone in our district who has the time or the capacity to be able to do that work. And so moving forward into beginning July 1st of 2025, districts, if they choose, they can use some of these salaries to adopt that opportunity facilitator. I know one example of that is East Helena. They actually have someone in place currently that will be doing this work on behalf of students in leadership. The second thing I want to do is just provide an overview of funding so you're aware of how the funding is calculated and then how it should be spent. So if we look at that left side, the funding calculation, districts are funded. There's a preset formula based on the previous year's total quality educator payment. Elementary districts are funded at 4.5%, K-12 districts are funded at 18%, and high school districts are funded at 30%. And when we look at districts who might be looking to apply, if we have any of those on this call, you can apply for your elementary and high school district on the same application. You can also submit your annual report in two different ways. One, you can tie those two together as long as it's clearly communicated what's the high school reporting elements and then what's the elementary reporting elements. Some districts have decided that it's easier to just submit two annual reports, one for the elementary level and one for the high school level. So either of those are acceptable. It's really a personal preference as long as all the information is communicated. And then of the funds that are received, at least 25% have to go to offset family and parent out-of-pocket costs for advanced opportunities that align to students' interests, passions, strengths, needs, and cultures. And really encouraging to have your students tell you what these are, right? So they're not dictated from a district level, even though that strategic plan helps guide what these could be, but really providing opportunities for all of your students based on their post-secondary interests um, and pathways. So at least 75% have to go to offset that. You could use up to that 100%. And of the remaining 25%, they can be used in two ways. And the percentages really are dependent upon the district. So one of the ways you can use these funds is to provide CTE courses that are offered by the district, either to enhance current ones, develop new ones, or create like advanced placement CTE opportunities. And the second one is to, again, pay for the hiring of that advanced opportunity facilitator. I hear a lot, like, what are some examples of what districts are doing around the state? I have those on the website, but I really just wanted to provide you what the bill language says. So again, that's 75% family out-of-pocket costs for student choices. And here are some of the ones that we see over and over again, and these are also wrote in the bill. So dual enrollment, exam fees. So if you have students that are retaking the ACT, a career placement, international baccalaureate, any type of placement exams you can use these funds for. Work-based learning opportunities. So whether that's supplies, materials, protective equipment, the travel to get to a work-based learning opportunity, fees for workman's compensation that your industry providers are charging you as a district. Any of those costs can come out of these funds. The next one, any type of industry recognized credential or license. We think about like a safe serve, a CNA license, welding licenses. We've had some districts that have used this for students who wanted to earn their pilot's license. We had a student who wanted to create his own business, so he needed a business license. So any type of those credentials or licensing that your students need in order to follow their aspirations, you can use these funds for. And then the last two bullets really came out of the 23 legislative sessions. So I want to make sure everyone understands that it's not just for licensed and certified teachers providing these opportunities, but these opportunities can be enrichment activities and opportunities outside of your school. So it might be a music, like a music, I'm trying to think of the word, like a gathering. I know that there's like an out-of-state music festival that a lot of our schools go to in Spokane. You could use these funds for that if students are having to pay for that cost out of their own pocket. I've had districts that ask about, like, we have students that want to go to a baseball camp at MSUB. Can we use these funds? And so again, as long as those expenditures are board approved and in alignment with the discretion of your district and your school board, you can use these funds for any of those things as well. And then again, that 25% for the CTE offerings and the advanced opportunity facilitator. Here again are some examples. I'm not going to go through all of them, but really want you to think about student-driven versus student-mandated. So if this is something that your students are participating, that they are opting into, that is not a basic education requirement, really the sky's the limit for the use of these funds. The legislative intent is really helping students earn certifications, credentialing, and credits in order to give them a leg up in either college entrance or industry or military. And then poor examples of the use of these funds would really be student mandated. So lab fees that are associated with basic education requirements that every student has to take, right? The paying of student or of teacher salaries, meals for staff, right? Chaperone payments. So things that are disconnected from actual student interests, passions, needs, strengths, and culture would be poor examples of the use of these funds. So the reason why most of you, I'm assuming, are here is really to talk about the annual reporting piece of this. Oh, yeah, Carl, you have a question?
Sorry, I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
If you go back to that last slide, I don't want
Sure.
to occupy the meeting with just my question, but
This one
we
or the
are,
previous?
well, this slide, we
Okay.
are we are paying lab fees. I see that's listed under non-examples. We're paying lab fees in CTE courses for our students with AOG funding,
Okay.
which has been like really incredible for our CTE courses
Sure.
and offsetting those costs for families. Are we okay to do that, or do we need to reevaluate what we're doing? That was what was originally proposed, and
Yep.
we applied for the grant and was board approved, etc. We're doing other things with the grant as
Absolutely.
well, but a big chunk of it is doing that.
Yeah. So the question to ask, are these basic education requirements that every student has to take this course, or are they student
No.
opted, if they're student
There's
choice, student
student
opted in,
choice. Yep.
right?
So it's elective
Yep.
CTE courses, and our entire CTE schedule is based off student choice. So
Absolutely.
we
So that,
build
that would
clip.
be a
Yeah.
great example of a student-driven use of these funds that
Okay.
without these funds, families would have to endure the cost.
Correct. Okay.
Yeah.
I just wanted to make sure that kind of
Yeah.
made my stomach turn a
No,
little bit. I'm like, oh my
I,
God, are we doing something wrong? Okay.
I
Thank you. That
understand.
was my
Yeah.
question. Okay.
So if you think about I'm thinking of, like a freshman earth science class. Every
Right.
freshman in your school has to take this earth science class. There were lab fees before this, right? So this is not using these funds to say, districts have these predetermined lab fees. Every student has to take the class regardless of what they want to do after graduation. And we're going to, instead of charge families, right, or find other sources to cover the cost, we're going to use advanced opportunities.
Okay.
Not
Okay.
really ideal, right? But how you had mentioned, Bozeman's using it as far as student choice electives. And I think that really could come out of the CTE 25%, or it could come out of that 75%, right? And there kind of
Okay.
is a gray line between those two areas, depending on
Okay.
how your district has budgeted the 75-25 breakdown.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm a little maybe more concerned about that in the middle school side or
sure.
elementary district,
Yep.
whether those students actually have, it is in CTE elective pathways that are leading to the high school pathways. And we're doing kind of a similar thing to enhance those programs with the lab fees. Um, I'll have to do a little bit more research there to make sure we're in
Okay.
line, but I
Yeah. And
appreciate
I'm
the
happy
info.
to
Yeah.
visit, with you about that later
Okay. Okay.
if need
Okay.
be,
Thank
for
you.
sure. Absolutely. Um, so the annual reporting, this is again what qualifies your district for funding for the following year. I've bulleted the pieces of the annual report, the measurable objectives and the progress towards them. And I'm going to take you through screenshots of each of these slides. Um, and remember that comes out of your district's advanced opportunity strategic plan, the number of students who are benefiting from the advanced opportunity aid, the types of credits, certifications, and credentials that are being offered through your programs at your school. And then the last two really are taken into account by both the Board of Public Education and the Education Interim Committee that I present to. The projected growth for the program. So some districts might remember from between 2022 and 2023, the percentage of funding for districts actually increased. Those percentages that I showed you on that second slide, for example, high schools were funded at 20%. There was a significant need for districts to be funded at a higher percentage, and so that was bumped up to 30% in the 2023 legislative session. Same for elementary and high school. Those had a little less of a significant increase, but still those funds were increased. And so anything that the district reports as far as funding needs, problems with the program, things that you would like to have legislative action or conversation about, this is a great place to provide that within your annual reports. And then again, here's the window for the opening. December 1st is for this year. When it will open, January 12th is when it will close at 5 p.m. And there's no benefit for getting it in earlier rather than later for the annual report. Just want to make sure that's clear. So you have up until January 12th at 5 p.m. to submit your annual report. So now I just want to take you through the sections. Section one's pretty simple. A couple call outs that I put on here. This submitter's full name, sometimes especially smaller districts have like the clerk submit it. This is really the person who I would contact if I had questions about the annual report. So in a smaller district, if the clerk or the business manager is actually filling out the annual report, that would be fine to put that name there. But it's a person who's overseeing the programs, helping support students, helping support um, teachers in utilizing these funds. That's who would be the person that I would hope you would put the name there so I can contact that person. And again, their contact information. These bottom two were added, I think, a couple years ago, just because it helps me understand where districts are using or ensuring the districts are using their funds. So all ARs or grant managers received a letter back in, I think, February or March, stating how the amount of funds that each district was going to receive. That's where you want to put that amount expended here, or amount received fiscal year 26. The expenditures today, it's a little wonky because you're funded on a fiscal cycle, but you're really reporting on a calendar year. So a lot of our districts that are new to advanced opportunities in fiscal year 26, you may have very little, and some districts might have no expenditures because remember, the funds were deposited in your district's flex account prior to October 1st. I think happened about a week earlier this year. And so some districts who are new to this are really trying to grapple with like, you know, the reimbursement process and things like that. So it would be okay if you're a new school district to advanced opportunities to have no expenditures to date. But looking into the following or the second year of annual reporting, you should have a significant amount of expenditures. And then that current balance. So remember, funds can roll over from year to year. So when those funds are rolling over, what I'm looking for is that current balance to ensure that we're actually spending down funds, and districts aren't asking for more funds with, you know, 20,000 or 80,000 or, even $100,000 sitting in their advanced opportunity funds. We really want to be spending these yearly to ensure that there's a spend down process, even though it's not technically mandated. Carl, I see you've got another question.
Yeah, sorry. So last year was our first year. So when I reported, I basically did from like October to December was what I put into the
Yep.
report last year.
Mhm.
This year, I was going to do December of last year to December 1 of this year. Is that what you
That's
want me to
perfect.
do?
That
Okay,
that works. Yep.
thank you.
Technically, it could be the calendar year, but if you had expenditures in that month of December when the reporting actually opens up, if you want to include those, that's fine.
Okay.
Yep. Section 2 is really about the your district strategic plans and the progress made. So there's room here to put a couple of your district's measurable objectives. If you have more, you certainly can add them to another sheet, or you can add more boxes within the in the chart. But this is just being able to communicate what your district had for strategic plan objectives, and then what progress has been made. Again, newly applying districts for this year who are receiving funds may have very few on here, but those districts that have been funded for several years, the more years funded, the more progress you should have made, as well as those objectives. And I've had districts reach out and say, well, ours have changed over the years. We either have a new school board or we have a new superintendent. And so these have changed. Is that okay? And absolutely, right? This is really the opportunity for your district to communicate, what you're offering, and maybe what you offered in 2001 is different than what you've progressed into 2025. And so this is an opportunity for your district to communicate what's most important and how you're spending these funds right now. Section 3 is what's required through legislation, and those were what we bulleted a couple slides earlier. The number of students, the types of certifications being offered, credentials, and credits, the summary of the growth of your program. Again, this is the opportunity for the district to really tell the story of how you've transitioned into maybe only offering, dual enrollment in year 1 to now you're offering some work-based learning opportunities covering all lab fees, and building a CNA and a welding program, or whatever that might be. Needs for the next biennium. I would just want to caution that if you're asking for additional funds on that section 1, you really shouldn't have a large amount of money left in in your flex fund that isn't being spent down, right? So if you can show that you're spending down funds and utilizing them, I would totally give you the green light to say, we actually need more funds so we can build our programs. And then the last piece is just any issues that are being reported or asked by your stakeholders. Um, and then section 4, this is the last part of the annual report. So again, intentionally, the annual report, I know for our big districts, this might not sound accurate, but at least for our smaller districts, it shouldn't take a lot of time. It's intentional to be pretty straightforward, not a lot of reporting requirements to ensure that, the efforts of the district are used to develop these advanced opportunities, not necessarily to be spending a tremendous amount of time on the reporting. So some of our districts from previous years might remember House Bill 946 that went into effect in the 23 legislative session, where you had to include some descriptions of every opportunity, whether they happened in school or out of school, the funds expended for them, and then the number of students and the credentials earned. A few of those pieces, or at least House Bill 946 no longer requires those. If you have been tracking those and you want to include them, you are certainly welcome to. If you click here, there's a link to like a Google Sheet where you could track those, but not necessarily needed. If you want to use this Google Sheet to track the number of students and the certifications and communicate that there instead of in that box, if you have a significant amount, that might be easier. But however really works for the reporting manager of this grant is certainly fine by me. If you remember, for districts that initially applied, it had to be board approved through a motion, the application. The annual report doesn't need that. You do need your board chair signature on this and the date of that signature, but I would strongly recommend that you have someone within your district leadership that is presenting this to your board every single year, right? So maybe it's just an informational piece you try to get on, yearly onto a board packet in order to present what are we doing in our school district to offer advanced opportunities and to demonstrate or to show them the annual report. So again, doesn't need to be signed via a motion at a school board. Official school board meeting, but I would strongly recommend sharing this information with your school board as they initially signed, voted to approve advanced opportunities within your school district. This is just an example of that tracking sheet. So you can see all of these were required in the previous year. Just remember now, what's required is the number of students and the credentials earned. But I know some people found this tracking sheet to be useful. And so if you have been utilizing this, you're more than welcome to attach that to your annual report. And then finally, I'm a pretty linear person, so it helps me to see like where are we and where are we headed. So this timeline just shows you from the time that a district applies, and this was for fiscal year 27, but it really holds true for our annual reporting folks as well. So you are funded in we'll jump to this block right here, right? So your funds were deposited for fiscal year 26 into your flex account. You're providing opportunities. Some districts maybe more so than others based on previous years of having this grant. Here is that annual reporting cycle. So this is for next year, but we're in that annual reporting cycle right now for calendar year 25. And then you'll be requalified from the Board of Public Education moving forward for fiscal year 27 funds. And that cycle just really continues year after year from the annual reporting to the qualification to the being funded to the providing of the opportunities. And then finally, I just wanted to provide you with some resources. The first one here, I've had a lot of clerks reach out to me and say, we don't know how to code like the expenditures or the revenue. And so this school finance document, it's linked on the OPI website, but also linked here. So if you have a business manager or clerk that maybe doesn't see the initial funding letter because it goes to the grant manager or the AR, this would be a great resource to provide them so they know how to code expenditures that are associated with advanced opportunities. I've also included the new Senate Bill 278, which is what funds advanced opportunities for fiscal year 26 and 27. You will submit your annual report on the Advanced Opportunities website, which is linked here. There's also be a recording of this webinar the annual reports on there, and but you can see previous year's annual reports from previous districts if that's helpful for some of our new districts. Um, on December 1st at 8 a.m., a window will open on this Advanced Opportunities website, and that's where you'll be able to submit that annual report. It will then close automatically at 5 o'clock on that January 12th deadline. So just know that that's where you submit it. If you forget that and you reach out to me, I will be more than happy to help you navigate that. But that just allows for a one piece of a one-stop shop for collection, as well as timestamps. So we have that documentation. And then finally, here's my email address. If you have any questions, if you need help, if you want me to review your annual report, I'm happy to do that up until, the window closes. It's a really tight turnaround from the time the window closes to presenting them the following week to the Board of Public Education. But anytime up between now and, early January, I'm happy to review annual reports just to, give you a little bit of peace of mind of like, yes, this is what we're looking for. Here's maybe something that you might want to go back and look at. And with that, I just want to thank you for your time. I appreciate folks, making the time to listen in today, and hopefully this was a good use of your time. And happy to field any questions that you might have from listening today.
Crystal, I just had a quick question. I watched your first video like after